The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Today marked the first time in 50 cycles that a new species would be considered for contact. On the giant viewing screen, a blue-green planet spun slowly. "Earth," said Senior, Counselor Vreen, his 6 fingers tapping the smooth surface of the council table. "Home to the beings called humans." The 7 council members shifted in their seats. Some leaned forward with interest. Others pulled back in clear discomfort. Zixtar, the representative of the Medusan Collective, fluttered his wing membranes. "Are we certain they are ready? Their technology seems primitive." "Primitive but advancing rapidly," replied Ellarine of the Solari Federation. Her golden skin glowed softly in the dim chamber. "They went from basic flight to space exploration in less than a century." Vreen nodded and waved his hand. The screen changed to show scenes from human history, their art, their wars, their triumphs and failures. "This is why I called this session," Vreen said. "Humans are unlike any species we have encountered. They adapt quickly. They are resilient. But they are also capable of great violence when threatened." The Draxian ambassador, Krell, let out a low rumble that passed for laughter among his kind. His scaled skin gleamed under the lights, the ceremonial armor of the Draxian Empire catching every beam. "You speak of them as if they are dangerous," Krell said. "Look at their weapons. Look at their ships. They barely understand gravity manipulation. My empire has nothing to fear from such creatures." Vreen's eyes narrowed. "That attitude, Ambassador Krell, is precisely what concerns me." The door at the far end of the chamber slid open with a soft hiss. 2 humans entered, escorted by council guards. The chamber fell silent. "May I present Commander Samantha Wright and Ambassador Kevin Daniels of the Earth Alliance," announced the council attendant. The humans looked small next to the towering guards, but they walked with straight backs and confident steps. Commander Wright wore a blue uniform with silver insignia, while Ambassador Daniels was dressed in formal Earth attire, a simple black suit with a blue tie. "We thank the Galactic Council for this invitation," said Daniels, his voice clear and steady. "Earth is honored to be considered for diplomatic relations." Commander Wright surveyed the room with alert eyes. "We come in peace but also in honesty. Earth has had its share of conflicts, as I'm sure your research has shown. We have learned from our past and hope to build a peaceful future among the stars." Krell leaned forward, his claws clicking against the table. "Tell us, human. How would your people react if they knew how easily any one of our civilizations could destroy your planet?" Vreen started to object, but Commander Wright answered first. "We would do what humans have always done, Ambassador. Adapt, survive, and eventually overcome." Her eyes never left Krell's. "We hope it never comes to that." A tense silence filled the room. Vreen cleared his throat. "Let us proceed with the vote. The question before the Council: should Earth be granted limited diplomatic status within the Galactic community? The votes were cast one by one. The Medusan Collective, yes. The Solari Federation, yes. The Quantum Consciousness, no. The Draxian Empire, a firm no. The Hive Nexus, yes. The Void Walkers, no. It came down to Vreen's vote. The Council of 7 Sectors votes 4-3 in favor of establishing diplomatic relations with Earth. Ambassador, Daniels bowed slightly. "We are grateful for this opportunity." As the meeting concluded and the chamber began to empty, Vreen approached the Draxian ambassador privately. "You should take these humans more seriously, Krell." The Draxian sneered. "They are nothing. Small, soft creatures with delusions of importance." Vreen shook his head slowly. "I have studied over 300 species during my time on this council. None have shown the combination of traits I see in humans: their creativity, their determination, their capacity to unite against a common threat. Is that a warning, Counselor?" Krell's voice had an edge. "Yes," said Vreen simply. "Underestimate them at your peril." Krell laughed and walked away, his heavy footsteps echoing in the now empty chamber. Vreen watched him go, then turned back to the screen where Earth still rotated slowly, blue and peaceful against the black of space. "They never listen," he murmured to himself. 5 years passed since humans joined the galactic community. Earth had changed in that time. Their ships now traveled between stars with growing confidence. They had built homes on 3 new worlds, each colony a bright spot of human determination. Lisa Martinez stood at the window of the Earth Alliance embassy on Centauri Prime. Behind her, 6 officials waited around a long table covered with reports and star charts. "They're testing us again," Lisa said, watching ships move in the distance. 3 Draxian vessels crossed into our research zone yesterday. Admiral Paul Wilson nodded. "The 4th time this month. They claim it was a navigation error." "Navigation error," Lisa repeated with a bitter smile. "Just like the last 3 times. She turned from the window and took her seat at the head of the table. As Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, she had spent more time dealing with Draxian provocations than actual diplomacy. "What about Dr. Burke's project?" she asked. "Any progress?" Dr. Alan Burke looked up from his datapad. He was a quiet man with tired eyes and hands that never stopped moving. "The energy conversion system works," he said. "We can now power a ship for twice the distance using half the fuel. If we can scale it up." He paused, a rare smile crossing his face. "We could reach any part of known space without stopping." The room fell silent as they considered this news. "The Draxians know," said Security Chief Jack Rogers. "Their spies have been trying to access Dr. Burke's lab for weeks. We caught 2 of them yesterday." Lisa frowned. "Where are they now?" "In custody. They claimed diplomatic immunity, but they were clearly military intelligence." The communication panel on the wall chimed. A hologram appeared. Ambassador Kevin Daniels calling from the Galactic Council. "Lisa, we have a problem," he said without greeting. "The Draxians are demanding we release their diplomats and are threatening sanctions against Earth for what they call aggressive expansion in the frontier sectors." Lisa exchanged looks with her team. "They're calling us aggressive? Their ships have violated our space 14 times in 3 months." "I know. I've presented our evidence to the Council." Kevin's image flickered slightly. "They're divided. The Medusans and Solari support us. The Hive Nexus is neutral. The others seem swayed by Draxian claims that we're a destabilizing influence. Because we settled empty planets? Because we're advancing too quickly for their comfort?" Admiral Wilson's voice rose in frustration. Kevin nodded. "Essentially, yes. The Draxian ambassador gave a speech about how Earth is upsetting the balance of power that has existed for millennia." Lisa stood up. "Tell them we will present our case tomorrow, and Kevin," she added, "remind them that we have fully complied with every council regulation. We have shared medical advances, cultural works. We've been model citizens." After the call ended, Dr. Burke cleared his throat. "They're afraid of us, aren't they?" Lisa nodded slowly. "Some are. The Draxians most of all, though they'd never admit it." "What happens now?" asked Jack. "We continue as planned," Lisa said, firmly. "We follow the rules, but we don't back down." Later that day, Lisa met with the Draxian ambassador in the neutral zone of the embassy complex. Ambassador Gortek towered over her, his scaled skin reflecting the light in metallic patterns. "Your people should know their place," he said without preamble. "New species are expected to integrate slowly. Your rapid expansion causes concern." Lisa met his gaze steadily. "We are within our rights under council law." "Laws can change," Gortek said with what passed for a smile among Draxians, a showing of sharp teeth. "When enough council members agree they should." "Is that a threat, Ambassador?" "A reality check, Representative Martinez. The galaxy operated in perfect harmony before humans. We would hate to see that harmony disrupted." Lisa stepped closer, ignoring how the Draxian guards tensed. "Let me offer a reality check in return. We seek peace and cooperation. We respect the Council, but we will defend what's ours." As the Draxian delegation left, Lisa's communication device buzzed. It was Counselor Vreen. "I heard about your meeting," the old counselor said. "The Draxians are making a grave mistake." "They don't seem to think so," Lisa replied. They never do, said Vreen. I warned them about human determination 5 years ago. They didn't listen then. They're not listening now. He paused. I fear what will happen when they finally learn their lesson. Lisa looked out at the stars. So do I, Counselor. So do I. The human colony on Proxima Centauri b sparkled with lights as night fell. 10 years had passed since the first settlers arrived, and today the colony celebrated its anniversary. Children ran through the streets with glowing balloons, while adults gathered in the central plaza. Governor Patrick Morgan stood on a small stage, his voice carrying across the crowd. A decade ago, we were just 200 people in habitat domes. Look at us now, 20,000 strong and growing. Our farms produce food, our factories create goods, and our children are the first humans born among the stars. The crowd cheered. No one noticed the ships that appeared in orbit above them. In the colony's monitoring station, Susan Harper stared at her screen in disbelief. Sir, she called to her supervisor, we have 5 Draxian warships entering orbit. They're not responding. To Hales. News spread through the celebration. The music stopped. Parents gathered their children close. Governor Morgan hurried to the communications center, still wearing his formal clothes. Draxian vessels. This is Governor Patrick Morgan of the Earth Alliance colony on Proxima Centauri b. You have entered Earth Alliance space without permission. Please state your purpose. The screen flickered and a Draxian face appeared. Commander Grelthok wore ceremonial battle armor. His yellow eyes narrowed. This is a peacekeeping patrol, he said, his voice rumbling. The Draxian Empire has concerns about military buildup in this sector. Military buildup? Morgan repeated. This is a civilian colony. We have a small security force only. The Draxian commander made a dismissive gesture. Our scans show weapon signatures. The Empire has decided to investigate. Any weapons here are for colony defense only, as permitted by the Galactic Council, Morgan insisted. If you have concerns, we can arrange for council inspectors to— The time for talk is over, human, Grelthok interrupted. Your kind spreads too quickly, advances too rapidly. The council may tolerate this, but the Empire sees the threat clearly. Morgan felt a chill. Commander, I urge you to reconsider whatever you're planning. Contact your government. We can resolve this diplomatically. The Draxian's face showed no emotion. An example must be made. The transmission cut. Seconds later, alarms blared throughout the colony. They're targeting the northern outpost, Susan shouted. Energy weapons powering up. Evacuate the area, Morgan ordered. Get everyone to the shelters. But it was too late. From orbit, the Draxian ships fired. Bright beams of energy cut through the night sky, striking the small research outpost at the colony's edge. The buildings vanished in blinding light and rolling fire. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but scorched earth and melted metal. 37 people were stationed there, Susan whispered, her face pale. All dead. Governor Morgan stared at the destruction in horror. Then his jaw set in determination. Send this message to Earth, maximum priority, he said. Draxian warships have attacked Proxima Colony. They destroyed the northern outpost. 37 casualties confirmed. We need immediate assistance. On Earth, President Catherine Powell received the news in her office. She sat motionless for several moments, then pressed a button on her desk. Declare a state of emergency, she told her assistant, and get me Admiral Winters. Within an hour, the Earth Defense Fleet was on high alert. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and behind moons moved into formation. Weapons that had never been revealed to the Galactic Council were powered up. Admiral Joseph Winters stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the fleet assemble on the view screen. The Draxians finally did it, his executive officer said quietly. Yes, Winters replied. They finally did. Signal all ships. Prepare for combat operations. We are now at war. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, urgent messages flashed across communication panels. Representatives hurried to their seats as Councillor Vreen called for order. The situation is grave, Vreen announced. Draxian forces have attacked a human colony. Earth has declared a state of war. The humans must stand down, the Draxian representative demanded. This is an internal security matter. 37 dead civilians is not a security matter, Ambassador Daniels replied, his voice tight with controlled anger. It is an act of war. The Council demands an immediate ceasefire, Vreen said. Both parties must. A message appeared on his screen. Vreen read it and looked up, his face grim. The Draxian Emperor has refused Council mediation, he says. Vreen paused. He says the human military is no match for the Empire, and they will learn their place. Ambassador Daniels stood up. They will learn something, he said quietly, but not what they expect. The human colony on Proxima Centauri b sparkled with lights as night fell. 10 years had passed since the first settlers arrived, and today the colony celebrated its anniversary. Children ran through the streets with glowing balloons while adults gathered in the central plaza. Governor Patrick Morgan stood on a small stage, his voice carrying across the crowd. A decade ago, we were just 200 people in habitat domes. Look at us now, 20,000 strong and growing. Our farms produce food, our factories create goods, and our children are the first humans born among the stars. The crowd cheered. No one noticed the ships that appeared in orbit above them. In the colony's monitoring station, Susan Harper stared at her screen in disbelief. Sir, she called to her supervisor, we have 5 Draxian warships entering orbit. They're not responding. To Hales. News spread through the celebration. The music stopped. Parents gathered their children close. Governor Morgan hurried to the communications center, still wearing his formal clothes. Draxian vessels. This is Governor Patrick Morgan of the Earth Alliance colony on Proxima Centauri b. You have entered Earth Alliance space without permission. Please state your purpose. The screen flickered and a Draxian face appeared. Commander Grelthok wore ceremonial battle armor, his yellow eyes narrowed. This is a peacekeeping patrol, he said, his voice rumbling. The Draxian Empire has concerns about military buildup in this sector. Military buildup? Morgan repeated. This is a civilian colony. We have a small security force only. The Draxian commander made a dismissive gesture. Our scans show weapon signatures. The Empire has decided to investigate. Any weapons here are for colony defense only, as permitted by the Galactic Council, Morgan insisted. If you have concerns, we can arrange for Council inspectors to. The time for talk is over, human, Grelthok interrupted. Your kind spreads too quickly, advances too rapidly. The Council may tolerate this, but the Empire sees the threat clearly. Morgan felt a chill. Commander, I urge you to reconsider whatever you're planning. Contact your government. We can resolve this diplomatically. The Draxian's face showed no emotion. An example must be made. The transmission cut. Seconds later, alarms blared throughout the colony. They're targeting the northern outpost, Susan shouted. Energy weapons powering up. Evacuate the area, Morgan ordered. Get everyone to the shelters. But it was too late. From orbit, the Draxian ships fired. Bright beams of energy cut through the night sky, striking the small research outpost at the colony's edge. The buildings vanished in blinding light and rolling fire. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but scorched earth and melted metal. 37 people were stationed there, Susan whispered, her face pale. All dead. Governor Morgan stared at the destruction in horror. Then his jaw set in determination. Send this message to Earth, maximum priority, he said. Draxian warships have attacked Proxima Colony. They destroyed the northern outpost. 37 casualties confirmed. We need immediate assistance. On Earth, President Catherine Powell received the news in her office. She sat motionless for several moments, then pressed a button on her desk. Declare a state of emergency, she told her assistant, and get me Admiral Winters. Within an hour, the Earth Defense Fleet was on high alert. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and behind moons moved into formation. Weapons that had never been revealed to the Galactic Council were powered up. Admiral Joseph Winters stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the fleet assemble on the view screen. The Draxians finally did it, his executive officer said quietly. Yes, Winters replied. They finally did. Signal all ships. Prepare for combat operations. We are now at war. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, urgent messages flashed across communication panels. Representatives hurried to their seats as Councillor Vreen called for order. The situation is grave, Vreen announced. Draxian forces have attacked a human colony. Earth has declared a state of war. The humans must stand down, the Draxian representative demanded. This is an internal security matter. 37 dead civilians is not a security matter, Ambassador Daniels replied, his voice tight with controlled anger. It is an act of war. The Council demands an immediate ceasefire, Vreen said. Both parties must. A message appeared on his screen. Vreen read it and looked up, his face grim. The Draxian Emperor has refused Council mediation, he says. Vreen paused. He says the human military is no match for the Empire, and they will learn their place. Ambassador Daniels stood up. They will learn something, he said quietly, but not what they expect. The emergency alarm sounded through Earth's military headquarters. Officers rushed to their stations as screens lit up with data streams. Admiral Winters stood in the center of the command room, his face calm. On the Draxian command ship Eternal Victory, General Kravnor studied the tactical displays with growing frustration. The humans had vanished. Their colonies stood empty. Their ships were nowhere to be found. They cannot have simply disappeared. He growled to his officers. Find them! We have searched all known space lanes, General, his tactical officer replied. Our patrols report nothing. The general pounded his armored fist on the command console. The Emperor expects results. He wants Earth brought to its knees. Perhaps they have surrendered already, suggested a young officer. Perhaps they fled beyond the outer systems. General Kravnor sneered. No, they are planning something. But what does it matter? Once our main battle fleet arrives, we will strike directly at Earth. Even if they hide their colonies, they cannot hide their homeworld. On the bridge of her ship, Captain Olivia Rodriguez watched the final preparations for humanity's first counterattack. Her vessel, the Ghost, was one of the new Phantom-class ships, invisible to all known detection systems. All systems green, reported her first officer, Steve Hill. Drone swarms ready for deployment. Olivia nodded. Send the coded signal to Admiral Winters. Operation Thunderbolt is go. The Ghost and 5 sister ships slipped silently through space, toward their target, the Draxian military base on Torva III. No alarm sounded as they entered the system. No defense systems activated as they positioned themselves around the planet. Launch the swarms, Olivia ordered. From each ship, thousands of tiny drones spilled into space, each no bigger than a human hand. They streaked toward the planet, moving too fast for Draxian defenses to track effectively. On Torva III, the first warning came too late. Alarms blared as the drone swarms penetrated the atmosphere. Draxian commanders rushed to battle stations, but found their systems failing one by one. The drones attached to power stations, weapons platforms, and communication arrays, inserting specialized viruses into each system. Within minutes, the entire military base went dark. Backup systems failed. Weapons would not fire. Ships could not launch. No shots had been fired. No lives had been lost. But the most important Draxian military installation in the sector had been neutralized. At the Galactic Council, representatives watched in stunned silence as reports came in. The Medusan delegate turned to Councillor Vreen. Is this the human response? To disable rather than destroy? Vreen nodded slowly. Interesting, isn't it? They could have bombarded the base from orbit. Instead, they chose precision. The Draxian representative stormed into the chamber, scales flushed with anger. This is an outrage. The humans have used prohibited technology. Their drones violated multiple treaties. Ambassador Daniels stood calmly. We signed no such treaties. The Draxian Empire refused our admission to those particular accords, if you recall. Before the Draxian could respond, more urgent news arrived. 2 more Draxian military bases had gone dark in the same manner. Weapons neutralized. Systems offline. No casualties. How is this possible? The quantum consciousness representative wondered. To strike 3 targets simultaneously across such distances. The answer came minutes later, when a 4th Draxian world reported the same silent attack, then a 5th. By day's end, the count reached 7. In his palace on the Draxian throne world, Emperor Draxvor received the reports with cold fury. How can primitive humans do this? He demanded of his advisors. You assured me their technology was generations behind ours. His chief science advisor trembled. They must have been hiding their true capabilities, Your Majesty. The energy signatures we're detecting from their new ships, it's unlike anything we've seen before. The Burke Drive, said a voice from the doorway. The Emperor's intelligence director entered, looking grave. Named after its human inventor, it allows their ships to make unpredictable jumps through space. No pattern. No detectable energy signature until the moment they arrive. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Can we develop a defense? Not quickly, Your Majesty. Draxvor stood from his throne. Then we must strike Earth directly now before they disable more of our forces. His voice turned cold. Prepare the World Breaker. The intelligence director paled. The Doomsday weapon? But Your Majesty, the Council expressly forbids. I do not answer to the Council, the Emperor roared. I will not be humiliated by hairless apes. If we cannot defeat them conventionally, we will make such an example of their homeworld that no species will dare challenge us again. Far away aboard his flagship, Admiral Winters received news of the Emperor's order. So, he said quietly, they're bringing out their planet killer. He turned to his communications officer. Signal all ships. Commence Phase 2. The chambers of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from all member species pressed against the walls as Councillor Vreen called for emergency action. The Draxian Empire has activated the World Breaker weapon, he announced, his voice grave. This violates our highest laws. We must intervene before it is too late. Murmurs spread through the room. The World Breaker was a planet-destroying weapon, banned by the oldest treaty in galactic history. Ambassador Kevin Daniels of Earth stood calmly at the center of the chamber. Earth will accept a ceasefire and peace negotiations, he stated. We never wanted this war. The Solari representative stepped forward. Where is the Draxian ambassador? Why does he not face this council? The Draxian delegation has withdrawn from council space, Vreen explained. They no longer recognize our authority in this matter. Ambassador Daniels looked around the chamber. Their emperor has made his choice. But know this, Earth extended peace offers 3 times in the past week. Each was rejected. What will you do if the World Breaker launches? Asked the Medusan representative. Daniels simply said, survive. You. The human colony world New Eden. Governor Ellen Parker received the evacuation order from Earth Command. She watched as families boarded transport ships carrying only what they could hold in their hands. Will we ever see our homes again? Asked an old man, clutching a small box of keepsakes. Ellen placed her hand on his shoulder. Yes. This isn't defeat. It's strategy. The man nodded slowly. My grandson is with the fleet. He told me not to worry. Said humans have a few surprises ready. More than a few, Ellen said with a tight smile. In deep space, Lieutenant Benjamin Cole piloted his 1-person stealth craft through the outer defenses of the Draxian homeworld. His mission was simple, but nearly impossible. Infiltrate the planetary defense grid and plant specialized code into their systems. Approaching target, he whispered into his comm unit. No sign of detection. His craft, barely larger than a shuttle, drifted past massive defense platforms. The Draxians had built layers, of protection around their throne world, energy shields, automated weapons, patrol ships. None detected the human vessel sliding silently past them. Benjamin reached the main control satellite. Using tools that left no trace, he accessed its systems and uploaded the code developed by Earth's best programmers. Package delivered, he reported. Returning to extraction point, as he pulled away, the defense grid continued functioning normally. Nothing appeared to change. The code sat dormant, waiting for the signal to activate. On Earth, President Catherine Powell addressed the worldwide broadcast. Billions watched as she stood before the historic United Nations building. Citizens of Earth and our colonies, she began, the Draxian Empire has prepared its most terrible weapon for use against our homeworld. They believe this will force our surrender. She paused, her expression resolute. They are wrong. The camera panned out to show ships lifting off from Earth, thousands of them carrying civilians to safety. For 2 years we have prepared for this possibility, Powell continued. Our evacuation protocols are working as planned. But know this, Earth will not fall. We have extended every possible peace offering. We have shown restraint in our military operations, disabling rather than destroying. Her voice hardened. That restraint has been met with escalation, the deployment of a weapon designed for planetary genocide. To the Draxian Empire I say this. End this now, or face consequences beyond your imagination. In his palace, Emperor. Draxvor watched the human president's speech with amusement. Brave words from a doomed species, he sneered to his generals. They evacuate like cowards while making threats. His weapons minister approached nervously. Your Majesty, the World Breaker, is ready for deployment, target locked on Earth. Launch, the Emperor commanded without hesitation. From a hidden base on the dark side of the Draxian moon, the massive weapon powered up. Its energy core glowed as it prepared to unleash destruction never before seen in the galaxy. Admiral Winters received the alert immediately. They've launched, he said to his command staff. Just as we expected, his executive officer looked concerned. Will our countermeasures work, sir? They'd better, Winters replied, because if they don't, we go to Plan B, which is, Winters' eyes were cold. We make sure no Draxian survives to celebrate their victory. The World Breaker moved through space toward Earth, its massive form trailing energy as it accelerated. On observation decks across the galaxy, people of all species watched with horror. Never in living memory had such a weapon been used. Emperor. Draxvor stood before a large viewing screen, a satisfied smile on his scaled face. In 6 hours, the human homeworld would be reduced to dust. His generals and advisors gathered behind him, their expressions a mixture of awe and unease. A glorious day for the Empire, the Emperor declared. Soon, all will remember what happens to those who defy Draxian power. His chief military advisor stepped forward hesitantly. Your Majesty, our long-range sensors detect no movement from the human fleet. They appear to be waiting. The Emperor waved a dismissive hand. Let them watch their world die. Their spirit will break and we will sweep up what remains of their colonies. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Winters gave the order. Activate Operation Silent Night. Throughout Draxian space, hidden human agents received the signal. On military bases and communication centers aboard warships, small devices activated simultaneously. The code Lieutenant Cole had planted in the Draxian defense grid came to life. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, Draxian systems began to fail. On a border outpost, the lights flickered and died. On patrol ships, engines suddenly powered down. In weapon factories, assembly lines ground to a halt. The failures spread like a wave across Draxian territory. Communication systems, power grids, life support, navigation. No explosions, no casualties. Just silence. In his palace, Emperor Draxvor's viewing screen went black. Emergency lights bathed the room in red. What's happening? He demanded. His technology minister worked frantically at a control panel. Unknown, Your Majesty. We've lost contact with all outer systems. Planetary defenses are offline. The palace security grid is failing. How? Is this possible? The Emperor roared. It appears to be a coordinated attack on all electronic systems, the minister explained, his voice shaking. But there are no human ships in our space. No detected weapons fire. The Emperor's communicator buzzed, one of the few devices still working. The voice of his fleet commander came through, filled with panic. Your Majesty, the World Breaker, it's changing course. What? That's impossible. Something has overridden its control systems. It's heading into empty space, away from Earth. The Emperor stood frozen, unable to comprehend what was happening. Then a new image appeared on the palace screens. Admiral Joseph Winters of Earth looked out at them, his expression calm. Emperor Draxvor, he said, your empire is now defenseless. Your military installations have been neutralized. Your fleets drift powerless in space. Your doomsday weapon has been redirected to detonate harmlessly in deep space. The Emperor found his voice. How? This is impossible. Where are your ships? Where are your forces? Winters smiled slightly. We're everywhere and nowhere. While you built bigger warships, we developed smarter technology. While you planned frontal assaults, we infiltrated your systems. Everything electronic in your empire now answers to us. On the Draxian throne world, citizens looked up in shock as human ships suddenly appeared in orbit. They had been there all along, hidden by technology the Draxians had dismissed as impossible. Captain Daniel Harris led the final assault team to the palace. His soldiers moved through halls already opened by deactivated security systems. They encountered no resistance. The palace guards' weapons had been rendered useless. Daniel found the Emperor in his throne room, surrounded by helpless advisors. Emperor Draxvor, Daniel announced, by authority of the Earth Alliance, you are removed from power. Your unconditional surrender is required immediately. The Emperor stared in disbelief. This cannot be. The mighty Draxian Empire, defeated without a single major battle. You were warned, Daniel said simply. The Galactic Council told you about humans, about how we adapt, about how we fight when threatened. In the council chambers, Counselor Vreen met with Admiral Winters as news of the Draxian surrender spread. 3 days, Vreen marveled. You defeated the greatest military power in the galaxy in 3 days with minimal casualties. Winters nodded. We could have destroyed them completely. Yes, said Vreen. Why didn't you? Because we're not monsters, Winters replied. We just don't lose. 1 year after the surrender of the Draxian Empire, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different. The curved table had been expanded to include 3 new seats. Today, those seats were filled by humans for the first time. President Catherine Powell sat in the center position, flanked by Admiral Winters and Ambassador Laura Chen. Across from them, the new Draxian representative watched with careful eyes. He was younger than the previous ambassador, his scales a softer shade of green. Counselor Vreen called the session to order. Today marks a historic occasion. The Earth Alliance formally joins the Council as a full member with 3 seats in recognition of their status and contributions to galactic peace. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew that contributions to peace was a diplomatic way of saying defeating the most powerful military force in known space. Ambassador Chen stood to address the Council. We thank the Council for this honor. Earth has always sought peaceful cooperation among the stars. Recent events tested that commitment, but did not break it. The Medusan representative spoke next. Many of us still do not understand how your species achieved such a victory. The Draxian Empire had stood for 10,000 years. Admiral Winters answered, his voice calm. The Draxians made a fundamental error. They judged us by our apparent technology level, not by our capacity to innovate under pressure. He paused. Humans have a long history of being underestimated. And a long history of war, added the quantum consciousness representative. Some council members fear your military capabilities, President Powell leaned forward. That is why we have now shared Dr. Burke's energy conversion technology with all peaceful members of this council, and why we have helped rebuild the former Draxian territories rather than occupy them. She gestured to the Draxian representative. Ambassador Keltor can confirm that the transition has been handled with respect for Draxian culture and sovereignty. The Draxian nodded reluctantly. This is true. Where we expected harsh treatment, we found fairness. The humans even helped restore our worlds when they could have claimed them. Counselor Vreen stood slowly, his age showing in his careful movements. Perhaps now is the appropriate time to formally adopt the new protocol for species assessment. The document before you is called the Earth Doctrine. On screens around the chamber, text appeared. When evaluating new species for council membership, we must consider not only their current technology, but their adaptability, creativity, and response to challenges. We must recognize that peaceful intentions can coexist with formidable defensive capabilities. The vote passed unanimously. Later that day, Counselor Vreen and President Powell stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Proxima colony. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the new buildings that had replaced those destroyed in the Draxian attack. In the colony's central plaza stood a simple monument, 37 pillars of white stone, one for each life lost in the attack that had started the war. Beautiful, isn't it? Vreen said, looking at the sunset. Hard to believe that just a year ago this was a battlefield. Powell nodded. Humans are good at rebuilding. We've had plenty of practice throughout our history. Your people surprised? Everyone, Vreen commented. Not me, of course, I warned them. Yes, you did, Powell agreed, though I doubt even you expected the war to end so quickly. Vreen made a sound that passed for laughter among his kind. True. I knew humans were formidable, but even I underestimated your capacity for strategic thinking. He turned to face her. You could have destroyed them completely, you know. The Draxian Empire was helpless. That's not who we are, Powell said simply. We fight when we must, but we prefer to make allies rather than corpses. They watched as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. The former emperor still doesn't understand, Vreen said. He keeps asking how his mighty empire could fall so quickly. What do you tell him? I tell him exactly what I told his ambassador before this all began. Vreen gazed at the stars. That he should have listened when we warned him about humans. Powell smiled slightly. Perhaps next time they will. Above them, ships from a dozen species moved peacefully through the night sky. Among them flew human vessels now recognized and respected throughout the galaxy, not for their destructive power but for their restraint in using it. The lesson had been learned. The Galactic Council had warned them about humans. They didn't listen, and now the old order was gone. In its place stood something perhaps better, a peace built on mutual respect rather than fear.